One of the misnomers about getting your engineering license is that people say in certain situations you don't need it. Like, for example, if you're working with a large company. So in this episode of Pass the FE Exam, I have with me Alex Lee, staff engineer at Burns & McDonnell. And Alex is going to talk us through some of those misnomers and why they're just not true, and what really inspired her to take the FE and ultimately get her engineering license, and how it has helped her. This episode of Pass the FE Exam is brought to you by PPI, a leader in engineering exam prep for the FE and PE exams since 1975. PPI provides expert prep courses and study resources designed to help you pass the FE exam the first time. PPI's live online courses include hours of lectures, problem-solving demonstrations, exam strategy sessions, office hours, and a passing guarantee. When you take a live online course, PPI guarantees you will pass, or you can take the on-demand course for free. With study guides, practice exams, and more, the PPI Learning Hub offers digital practice and review that you can take with you anywhere you have a device so that you can prepare during the times most convenient for you. Check out PPI today at ppi2pass.com to see all the options available for FE exam prep. Let's dive in. All right, so I have with me today Alex Lee. Alex is a staff civil engineer at Burns & McDonnell. Burns & McDonnell, of course, being one of the larger engineering companies, I would say globally, certainly very well known. So, Alex, thank you for spending some time with us today and talking a little bit about your journey to become a licensed professional engineer. At EMI, we're really passionate about inspiring and helping engineering professionals to get their license because we think it's so important. So, first of all, for those that don't know you, tell us about what you do at Burns & McDonnell, just to start us off.
Absolutely. I am a transmission line engineer, but I actually have a more outward focus at this point in my career. I'm an account manager, project manager type role, but I got my license 4 years into my career as soon as I could.
Absolutely. And you've been in your career now for 6 years, roughly, right? You graduated about 6 years ago from Kansas State in civil engineering. So take us through that journey. Like, when was it that you first said, I know I want to get my license?
As soon as I started working at a consulting engineering firm, I knew I was going to be getting my license. One, it just is, I would say, foundational to having a career in consulting engineering. You can't move up into any role really as an engineer, I would say, without having that PE next to your name. However silly that might be. But I also think that, I had just studied so much to pass this really hard degree. I wanted to have the official, like, hey, you actually are a professional engineer, and you've, accomplished that. And so I think it was always important to me that no matter, I don't know if I want to be an engineer forever or what, but I knew I wanted to work at least 4 years, get that license, and know that the thing that I had already been striving for 4 years and now 8 years, I had fully accomplished.
No, it's great. And, we're sharing this interview on our Pass the FE Exam channel because for a lot of you out there, you're watching this, maybe considering the whole process, right? Because the FE exam is where you have to start in terms of getting your license. And so, you kind of right away knew that. But one of the questions I want to ask you, Alex, is you work at a very, very large company. Burns & McDonnell, I don't know how many employees they have, but just looking at their LinkedIn profile, it's over 10,000. So it's tremendous. Yeah. And sometimes I think I hear a little bit of a misnomer from people saying if you work in a big company, you don't need your license because there's so many people there that are licensed. Did it ever enter your mind that like maybe you didn't need a license because you worked at a big company, or like talk us through just that? Because I think it's a misnomer and I just want to kind of get some confirmation on that.
Yeah, one, Burns & McDonnell would not agree with that thought in any sense. So I'll say that. But for me personally, like I don't care what Burns Mac has. Like I care about what my credentials are, where my career is going, and regardless of where that is and what that means at any given point, like I want to know that I have the credentials for what I've accomplished, and that's really all the PE license is. The test honestly has very little to do with what I do, specifically transmission engineering. There was one question, I'm pretty sure I got it wrong, on the PE about what I do. But at the same time, it gives me, and it's an air of authority, honestly, in any space that I walk into, especially as a female young engineer. I think having PE next to my name gives me a little bit more street cred when I walk into a meeting and things like that. So yeah, I think that's a reality.
I think that's great. And I think that going back to what you said before, it's kind of like, in a way, like almost like legitimizes your career, right? Like you went to school, you really busted it in school, going through late nights in the lab and all these courses and all these classes, and to graduate as an engineer, quote unquote, but never get that license to kind of memorialize it. To me, I feel like it's getting you to that part of your career. I also think like no one could ever take it away from you, right? You have it for your whole career, as long as you maintain your continuing education credits. And to your point, like, this is a personal accomplishment, right? It's your license. It goes with you wherever you go. You don't know where what the future is going to hold for you. You don't know what you're going to do. So why not get it while you have the opportunity? And for those of you that might be listening who are in college considering starting the process and taking the FE, you do want to take it now, because it only will get harder if you're out of school for a long time and you try to pass the exam, because to Alex's point from earlier, it's going to be more about the stuff that you learn in school and less about the stuff that you're doing at work, which is why you want to take it now. But let's go back to kind of company support for a minute, because you kind of said there, it sounded like Burns & McDonnell is a huge proponent and support with this process. Talk about their kind of approach in helping you, or just generally speaking, how they support it.
Yeah. They definitely have courses in place to kind of give you like a guide to how to pass the PE and the FE, actually. I think they have both. And they're just really accommodating in terms of giving you resources for people. I mean, most people have taken it at Burns & Mac, and so you can go up to anyone and ask them for advice on how to take the exam and how to do well, how to study, all of that. And also, for me, there's a lot of paperwork involved with the FE, the PE. You have to get an EIT, the engineering training license. Who knew about that? I didn't. And so I definitely leaned on folks throughout my company to get assistance in terms of getting that actual PE license with the paperwork and all of that. So that's been really helpful. But also resources in terms of, study materials, things like that. I bought one book, the OSHA book, that I didn't open also during this exam. At the time when I took it, you could bring in stuff to the exam. Now I think it's online, and so
now it's a computer-based test. Well, it is good to hear that the company fully supports the engineers in getting their license, and and just to be transparent, a plug for Burns & McDonnell, they have sponsored our content. They do help us as well get some of this information out there, and we really do appreciate it. And so, they're obviously very supportive, but it goes back to something that I think is really important, and something you said in terms of, like, for example, you didn't know there was an EIT, right? So I think for those of you out there, your internship experience is very important. You should talk to the people in the company that you're doing an internship with, or seek out an internship specifically with a reputable firm like a Burns & McDonnell, where you'll learn from them. How do I get my license? What do I have to do? Will you help me? Will you support me? Do you have courses? Because this is not something you have to do alone, even though you're in college. Most firms out there, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of firms out there have a really good internship program. And if you get involved in one of those, even if the pay rate isn't great, it doesn't matter. That's not important. What's important is you're learning, you're making connections, and you're getting on your pathway to getting your license, which to me, if you want to think about earning power down the road, having that license is going to unlock a lot of doors for you. And one of the things that Alex said earlier that I just want to highlight again is there can be major barriers to advancement in your career as an engineer without that license, depending on where you work, the industry you're in. There's a lot of companies, like if you go into their like employee guidebook or manual or their progression, you can't get past a certain level without that license. I was interviewing a project manager yesterday at a company where we're doing some PM training for, and trying to understand their process. And he was like, well, basically, once you get your license, you can start to be considered to become a project manager in their company. So, every company is different. But my point is that seems to be a credential that people are looking for all the time when they're thinking about your advancement. And so just before I let you go, Alex, one last thing that I'll say is in terms of the the exam process, and I know it was a few years ago for you and the FE was even longer, but just in generally speaking from your prep on these exams, is there any like big takeaways or big things that you remember that were extremely helpful for you as you look back on it?
It's a good question. I think I blacked a lot of that out. I really struggled, honestly, with studying for the exam. So, I mean, one encouragement I'd give you is just keep trying, keep studying, because it's possible. And it's there's a reality that, a lot of what you're going to be tested on is not what you're familiar with. And so it just takes time to like learn those things. The thing that I did the most, I took a lot of practice tests. And so there's one that they actually send you when you sign up for the test.
Yeah, NCAA.
Like a little bit. Yeah, it's just a little bit of an extra fee that you pay when you first sign up to get their test booklet. And I did that. I think that was the most helpful thing that I did, was filling that out. I got really sad because my first step, I was like, I'm going to make myself feel better when I first start studying. I'm just going to flip through this booklet until I find a question I know the answer to. Flipped through the whole thing, didn't find a single question I knew the answer to. Got really defeated, but then kept going. And so I think that was, that's my biggest advice, like to do a lot of practice tests and problems and things like that. And I would say also when you're taking the test, don't leave until you absolutely have to. When I took it, you could leave like 15 minutes early. As long as you left 15 minutes early, you didn't have to sit in the room when they gathered up the test. And so a lot of people very intentionally like left the room early. And I stayed till the very end, reading the textbooks that I brought with me. I guess you can read the online material that they have in the electronic version now. But both the morning and the afternoon, I found an answer to a question in the last 15 minutes that I had. And so I would say just be persistent, try the best you can to, just continue to not let the stress of how you might do in the end cloud doing the best you can to get those answers.
Yeah, no, I really love that advice because there's no reason to leave early. This is a once-in-a-lifetime exam. Use every second you can to make sure that you've got every answer you could possibly get. And I remember actually I had a question related to like the makeup of concrete or something along those lines. And I didn't know it. I mean, it was either you know it or you don't. Like, what are the percentages? And I was going through, I had a book that was like, engineering for builders or something like that. I don't know where I had the book. Someone gave it to me a long time ago and I was flipping through and it had like the concrete makeup and the percentages and I found the answer. And it was like, just sitting there, taking the time, going through the resources, looking for those questions that you flagged that maybe you didn't answer the first time that you can try to get. So, well, listen, Alex, I want to thank you for kind of spending some time with us here, just giving inspiration, giving information for engineers. This getting your license is so important in one's career. And I think hopefully some of what you said will really inspire more engineers to do it. So thank you so much for the time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Alex. We love having practicing engineers on the show, talking about the importance and some of the potential pitfalls of your path to PE licensure, whether it's through the FE exam or our channel Pass the PE exam. What I would ask you to do though is please leave your comments below this video. Is there something very specific with the FE exam process that you're struggling with? Maybe it's the application, maybe it's a problem or a question that you have. We are here to help you. So please leave those comments below and we'll read them and maybe respond to them in an upcoming video. I look forward to seeing you next week on Pass the FE exam.